And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
Ahoy, Tampa Bay sports fans. Welcome aboard the RBLR Bucs podcast, your sunshine-filled journey through all things Tampa Bay Bucs related. Well, my name is Musam. I'm one of your co-hosts steering the ship through the offseason, keeping the Buccaneers spirit alive. And don't worry, just because that Super Bowl behind us doesn't mean the excitement stops. We got some of that spicy free agent signing talk, some re-signings going down, and you better believe we got some of that draft talk heating up as well. And folks, listen, it is the off season, but make sure to show some love to your other Tampa Bay sports. We got our Lightning team out here skating strong, and Suns FC women's team is gearing up, and our Rowdies are also getting in some action. So, of course, spring training for our beloved Rays too. So there's no shortage of Tampa Bay sports to keep you entertained. But also, if you got some thoughts or feelings to share, do not hesitate to let us know. Drop your comments on the live stream. Heck, even if you can't catch us live, leave a comment after the show. We'll be sure to check it out. So, hey, let's keep the Tampa Bay Bucs conversation going strong no matter what time you tune in. Well, what is this show without my wonderful co-host? No Zach Blaine tonight, but you know who is here? The one and only Mr. Carter Brantley, the one who's got every heat, who brings the heat with every take. And Carter, what's the good word, man? How are you? It's good to be back.
It is great to be back, man. It feels like it's been a month or something. I don't know what it is, but yeah, it feels like it's been a while, man, since we've been on the show together. How you been, man? You doing all right?
So far, so good. I'm reminded, Carter, of the off season as it has its ups and downs. As I was picking out my shirt for our episode, and it is the Super Bowl Devin White edition.
Very nice.
And there's always some negativity to this jersey, but you got to think about the positives as well. And
it's a Super Bowl jersey.
It allows me to take a trip down memory lane and think about all our good times we had with our Bucs in the past, and our good times with Devin White before he departed. So
yeah. I mean, shoot, it could be a Cameron Brate Super Bowl jersey. It's still a Super Bowl jersey. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's all good. Even if Devin White kind of ended poorly, he still was a good enough player to be on a Super Bowl team. I think it's fair to say that the Bucs might not win that Super Bowl without Devin White. So he's obviously not exactly one of the best linebackers in football anymore, but he was certainly pretty good back then. So yeah, no negativity there. It's all good. But I definitely feel you. There's definitely a little bit of a weirdness with Devin White now. But speaking of linebackers, we'll get right into this show because we've got, man, this past week, good Lord, there was just, nonstop news for the Bucs, as quiet as the offseason kind of started, as little news as there was. Once that free agency clock starts, my goodness, the Bucs got off and running. So the first one, I think we can kind of start from here and then go from there. Lavonte David, he's back. He did not retire. He is back on another 1 year deal, around, I think it was a little less than 10 million. I don't remember the exact figure, but a little bit more than he made last year, which I believe he made 8.5 million last year. Regardless, good to have him back. As much as it was a bit tough at times last season in pass coverage for him, he's still a very good run defender, and his leadership, it's hard to really quantify that. Definitely a really valuable member of that locker room. I know he has the respect of everyone in the organization, everyone in that locker room. And, he can kind of tutor and bring along whoever the next generation of Bucs linebackers are, so it was important to bring him back and not let him just go into another uniform. That would have been a bit sad, even if it maybe technically would have made more sense, or if they would have gotten a slight improvement performance-wise. I think his value from the locker room and leadership standpoint outweighs that. But Musab, what were your thoughts on this signing? Are you kind of surprised he didn't retire? Maybe it was a bit more money than you expected, but what are your general thoughts on Lavonte David being back?
Oh, I'm very happy. As you said already, Carter, I mean, the way I see it is, worst comes to worst, he can be a player coach.
For sure.
He's not, peak Lavonte David, but
yeah.
I still think that he can, still definitely, make an impact out there. as well as, I mean, as you said already as well, mentor the young guys.
For
He's
sure.
a locker room kind of guy. He's a leader. I mean, he's one of the, best Buccaneers, I would probably say, of all time. I mean, when you
He's an
think of,
icon.
especially in this kind of, generation, you would probably say he is definitely up there, if not, at the top. I'd probably say him and Mike Evans. When I think of Buccaneers, it's Mike Evans and Levante David, who
Absolutely.
I've watched from the start of my, Buccaneers fandom career. So, money part, I'll be honest with you. It's fine with me.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, whether I say it's horrible or not, clearly this is something that, the front office staff thought about as well, but it's just,
For sure.
it's also more of out of respect, to, make sure that you keep him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you don't want to mistreat the legends, I mean, as much as I know that there's a big wave in the sports world, which, there's some really great and fun aspects of it, but there's also some dark aspects of it, the efficiency, squeaking the most out of every dollar and all that stuff. There's room for this kind of thing. There's room for this kind of thing, especially for the Bucs, because they're, like you mentioned with the mentor part of it. Despite what Colin Cowherd is saying on his little show, the Bucs were one of the youngest teams in football last year, in terms of roster age, and I think that'll still. They're still going to be pretty young this year too. So it's going to be nice, especially on that defense, because the defense, as we've talked about ad nauseum, was really bad last year. It's important to sort of have a grounding force, if you will, or maybe just a good impact kind of guy. And Levante David is certainly that. So yeah, it's good to keep the icons. It just would have been depressing to see him in another uniform. I don't know. I don't know about you, but I would have been kind of not grossed out. But that's too dramatic. But just kind of, just a bad taste in your mouth, sort of just rough. But a lot of other movement too. Kind of re-signing was the theme of this of the beginning of this offseason, but there were also some outside moves. But we'll start with the re-signings because those were huge. Ben Bredesen, he has been brought back, the interior lineman, the left guard. He's going to come back and maintain that position for at least the next few years. I believe it was a 3-year deal. And then Chris Godwin, that was the big one. Chris Godwin, we were talking about throughout the beginning of this offseason before free agency started. Is he coming back? They reworked his deal to extend the deadline to that so that they could try to reduce his cap hit. They did it. They got it done. Chris Godwin's back. And apparently he took kind of a massive pay cut. Apparently the Patriots were offering him not an insignificant amount of money more to go play in New England with Drake May. And Chris Godwin said, nope, I'm good. I'm staying in Tampa. So what are your thoughts on bringing those two guys back? The offense is entirely intact. They are bringing back every starter. And for a group that was as good as they were last year, that's huge. So what are your thoughts on that? Give me something on Godwin and Bredesen coming back.
Massive, absolutely massive. I mean, first of all, Ben Bredesen, is he, Tristan Wirfs from the top of your head? I don't think that, but I mean, again, just a huge, key player out there. Same thing with Chris Godwin. I feel like, you think about the injuries and, I feel like there have been some times where it's kind of like he seems a little bit, in my eyes, kind of like, man, it's been kind of a little up and down or whatever. I'll be honest with you. It wasn't like, oh my God, I'm so ecstatic to have Chris Godwin back, but it makes total sense. And I mean, he is a crucial piece to that wide receiver core. And I mean, there were so many times this past season, just in the past seasons overall, where he came through big time for us. So, why get rid of him? Why lose that kind of chemistry he already has with our team, with
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield? So, I mean, he's definitely someone I can totally understand, that you would want to run it back with him. And it also, I mean, for the kind of, outside of football standpoint, turning down all that money, shows you that, he's dedicated to this team. He's dedicated to the fans. He really wants to be here. And I think it was a win for everyone, honestly.
Yeah, 100%. Really just a win for everyone. Perfectly put. Yeah, it just shows how much of a great culture that the Bucks have established because we can certainly sit here and criticize a lot of the decisions they've made, nitpick the draft picks, the free agency decisions. You can do that with every organization, but clearly a lot of their players want to play here, and it's not an insignificant thing. It's not an unimportant thing that you can just write off. And Chris Godwin seems to kind of exemplify that, personify that for sure. Like you said, just taking less money to be here. It's just outstanding stuff. Really, really. I don't want to say heartwarming because that it's still football, like it's still a man's game and everything. But it is nice to see because Tampa can be the butt of a lot of jokes, especially in football. But right now they're kind of one of the more consistent teams in the league. I mean, they've just they've won two Super Bowls in this century. They've been to the playoffs in consecutive seasons. Not a lot of teams can say that. So that's just speaks to what they've built here in Tampa and what they continue to build here with the Bucs, Jason Light, and all those involved with the building of this roster. So yeah, I was really
That
excited.
and it also allows our team to focus more on the defense pieces for the draft.
Absolutely.
Because I
And
mean, look, Godwin's out, so who's left? What we got: Evans, McMillan, Sterling Shepard, Raheem Jarrett, Ryan Miller. So it's kind of a big hole to fill. That
yeah,
with his departure, then you're kind of like, all right, well, we're gonna have to look into this, whether that be a free agent or in the draft. But
right. But now
it
it's not that. Yeah.
puts the organization at ease that they were able to work something out.
No, absolutely. That's a great point because I love that he kind of like Trey Palmer's in there too, but those are not. Ooh, like I like Trey Palmer and I think that Raheem Jarrett is fun and they brought back Sterling Shepard. That's another guy. But if that's if Mike Evans, knock on wood he doesn't, but injuries happen, or if him or J Mac or Kate Otten, if one of those guys go down and Chris Godwin's not there, then my goodness, that offense thins out real quick. So it's tough, So I think bringing him back, it just gives you an ease, and him and Baker seemed to have such a great rapport last year to start the season. I think that's only going to get better. It's only going to grow. So that's just really exciting for everyone. Like you said, win-win for everyone involved. But getting into the outside acquisitions, they also brought back, or they didn't bring back, they brought in Hassan Reddick, pass rusher. That was probably the biggest one. And they also brought in Anthony Walker, a linebacker, and he's going to factor into that LB2 role, sort of hopefully replace KJ Britt, who ironically enough replaced Walker. Well, I don't know if you want to call it replaced, but he switched sides with Walker as Walker was coming from the Dolphins. KJ Britt went to Miami. So I thought that was kind of funny. Sort of like Bredesen and Steiny last year when the Giants and Bucs sort of swapped interior offensive linemen. So that was kind of interesting. But what do you think of these signings? How do they change the draft priorities? Because we've already kind of touched on it with the Godwin signing, bringing him back, but bringing in Hassan Reddick, signing Anthony Walker. Does this change your calculus in terms of where the Bucs should prioritize in the draft, or is it kind of like, well, these are nice additions, but they still need some more long-term solutions? What are your thoughts on the draft and these free agent signings?
I think it does, put our kind of linebacker, edge need a little bit at ease. I don't think we just completely throw it out the window. I mean, I still think that, we should get a nice, young, hungry linebacker. That's someone that, Levante David could mentor as well.
Sure,
Um,
absolutely.
but yeah, I mean, I think we should be, thinking about also the future. I mean, fingers crossed, Hassan Reddick, does make an impact out there. Um, but I'm also just tired of, getting these young edge guys who unfortunately don't always end up working out for us for the
Yeah,
most part. Look at JTS. He is now on the Browns. I wish him all the best, but
yeah,
it's the same thing. So I feel like Zach would probably agree. In my opinion, as of right now, as of today, I'm locked in on kind of the DB room first. I'm not saying
yeah,
so maybe it changes my rankings a little bit, but I'm pretty sure I still had DB up there or cornerback up top in my rankings. But um,
yeah,
hey, listen, I guess the most important thing to take away is that these guys have already been in the league. Um, to be honest, from the top of my head, I don't know too much about Anthony Walker, but I know Hassan Reddick. He's got that experience under his belt, so Again, both of them can just be, valuable, kind of, I don't want to say depth pieces, but also we can just get a rotation going on as well. I think that's the big thing is, being able to get fresh legs, when needed or when possible, I think is going to be huge for our defense.
Yeah, I mean, if the Bucs don't have 3 potential edge rushers that they can kind of rotate in and out, they also brought back Anthony Nelson, so that really gives them 4 solidified, like, hey, these are guys that we can put out there. Just outside linebackers, guys that can at least sort of get after the quarterback. Like you said, fresh legs, making sure that no one's getting run, their tires run down or anything. That's huge. That's huge. And Reddick certainly brings some, like you said, he has the pedigree. He's had a lot of success at the NFL level. From a pass rushing perspective. And so, maybe he's able to bring Chris Braswell along. Maybe he's able to, and he's got a lot to prove, Reddick does, because last year was weird. Like, a lot of people are kind of soured on Reddick because he was really, really hot coming off the Eagles season that he had and the multiple Eagles seasons that he had. He was dominant there. And then he got traded to the Jets, and it was a whole lot of weird stuff. So I think that he has a lot to prove, and he's going to be like we were talking about in the chat. He's going to be hungry.
He's hungry and he wants to win.
That's right. That's right. Aren't we all? But yeah, no, I'm with you. I do think that corner definitely becomes more important. I think that it changes the calculus in that it was like, oh, they need to draft a starting interior linebacker because they don't have anyone to like, oh, let's go best defensive player available. Like, let's just say, like, kind of forget the positional adjustments, like whatever we think the best defensive player can make the highest impact. Because then they have guys that could theoretically start, at all those positions, like including interior defensive lineman, edge, interior inside linebacker. Like, every defensive position has the theoretical starters set. But now they can potentially upgrade one of those positions and add to that depth. So I think that's really exciting. So I really enjoyed pretty much all their signings. There hasn't really been one that really made me scratch my head. There were a few more minor moves. Greg Gaines was brought back. That's kind of the backup to Vita Vea. And then some special teamers signed, Charlie Heck and Kendall Vildor. Heck is an offensive lineman, a backup offensive tackle. Sort of, you hope that he doesn't see much of the field on offense, but he has some special teams pedigree. So I think that's huge for the Bucs. And ditto for Kendall Vildor. He's an outside corner, but again, you also don't hope that he has to take the field too much on defense, but he will provide some special teams value, which, it's the NFL. You gotta factor these things in. But before we get into our interior offensive line stuff, I did want to touch on Carlton Davis III. He got $20 million a year over 3 seasons. My goodness. What are your thoughts on that? And how does this kind of change your thoughts on Jamel Dean and his contract? Because I know I saw a bunch of the cornerback contracts, and I was like, oh yeah, the Bucs are keeping Dean. Like, they are not diving into these waters. So what are your thoughts on Carlton Davis's new contract with the Patriots and how it changes your view of Jamel Dean and his contract?
I think there's not really much to think about on my end, to be honest. I mean,
Yeah.
Hey, look, I'm happy, I'm happy Carlton Davis is getting paid.
Right.
But I think also
sure.
the way I kind of see it, I think it's kind of a need for Patriots to get someone, like him. I mean, he's not gonna, be like, oh my God, this is our knight in shining armor. He is gonna save our defense.
Right.
But, there's, some positions you got to kind of, put a little bit more money out there. And for me, what it means for Dean is, I think we're not going to be fishing, for anyone else right now. Keep things as is, at least right now with Dean. And I think, just having some of that familiarity as well.
Right.
I mean, honestly, I'm all about, keeping, guys we can, with us, of course, for as long as possible, unless they're just completely shit in the bed, things like,
Right.
getting rid of, when you think about, okay, is this guy just wasting, our time and money? And then, I don't think that's exactly it with Jamel Dean in my eyes. Sure.
No, I'm with you.
It's up and down, but I mean, the DB room it's more than just him. And unfortunately, sometimes injuries happen as well. So
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And cornerback play can be so finicky, it can be so fickle. It changes from year to year. A guy like Greg Newsome is a great example. He was horrible this year, but the year before he was pretty good. It's just very up and down. If a team doesn't have a good pass rush, maybe teams are just, exploiting different areas of the field. And so I know Jamel Dean can be the butt of a lot of jokes for the Bucs, and rightfully so. He's been hurt a lot, and he also can get burnt a lot. Him and Zion both. They certainly had their lowlights, but at the same time, there's just not a realistic better option. And I think this Carlton Davis contract kind of showed that in free agency, at least. But I will be really curious to see how that position plays out in the draft. Obviously, Will Johnson. We'll get into our cornerbacks when we get to that episode, but there are a lot of really interesting names out there in the first round, especially. But even as they progress throughout the draft, there's going to be some guys that the Bucs will certainly take a look at. Yeah, that's going to be a really interesting episode. But if you're looking to really upgrade your wardrobe, much like the Bucs might be looking to upgrade their cornerback room, definitely head to shop.rblrsports.com. We've got a really, really great selection there for all your Tampa sports needs. We'll give you a promo code Cannon, CANNONS. Celebrate all the all the great news this week for the Bucs, because there's been a lot. So celebrate, get yourself some gear, get yourself a Bucs shirt. Definitely check it out. We've got some great stuff for you. Moving on to the second half of our episode, we've got some really cool draft stuff because every week, leading up to the draft, we're going to have some draft prospects to talk about, different names to throw around. And this week, it's interior offensive line. I know it's not nearly as much of a need as maybe it would have been if they'd let Bredesen walk and they didn't replace him. But who knows? It's the Bucs. They're in a really good place with their team, I think, to where they can truly draft best player available pretty much round to round, honestly, at this point. Obviously, the defense really needs a lot of attention, so I would be a bit surprised if they went interior offensive line round one, but we'll still talk about some early round guys, and that's where we'll start. So our round 1/round 2 guys, I kind of combine those two because round one isn't exactly filled with guys in the interior right now. But Musab, get us started with the interior offensive line. Who's your round 1/round 2 guy on the interior offensive line?
All right. I got Mr. Donovan Jackson from Ohio State, listed as a guard and tackle. On some sites such as NFL Draft Buzz, he's listed as a tackle, but on other sites, he has been mentioned as a guard as well. Overall versatile offensive lineman. Definitely not a first rounder for sure. I mean, I see this guy second, maybe third round.
Mm-hmm.
That's what sites have him as well. But the reason why I like this guy, I watched his tape. I mean, well, I guess some highlights and some of these kind of NFL prospect videos or whatever. So it's not like I watched every single game of his, but he's got. I wish, but he's got high IQ. All right, he executes the assignment real well. I was watching it. I mean, he's not just. He knows exactly what needs to be done. When I watched him, I knew exactly, what the running back was about to do without even having my eyes on the running back, if you get what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying, oh, man, that's a big-ass hole that, Jackson made. Oh, okay, of course, that's where the running back's going to go through. Or that, or, oh, okay, this guy's coming on the side, charging at the quarterback. Ooh, bingo, okay, I know, quarterback's got some extra time. He's looking to his left, things like that. So, his hands, violent hands. Once he's latched onto you, it's game over. I was watching the tape. He didn't let go of any guy he had his hands on. Seriously. And I mean, to me, I feel like that's just something I feel like is really big. Especially, I mean, he was coming off, a super hot kind of, playoff run as well. He actually picked up the role of playing guard due to another guy's injury. I think it was one of their other, better offensive linemen. But overall, love how he uses his feet and his knees. Even through contact, he kind of sits there. It's kind of really tough to actually kind of get him out of space. But I guess since we have to talk about weaknesses, I don't really, I didn't really identify a weakness, but reports are always going to say the same old crap as usual for a lot of these guys. He's staying up too much, or it's like who gives a shit? You expect every guy to just be flawless outside of college. So,
of course.
I have to say though, the only thing that kind of worries me is that yes, he faced a lot of good competition, Carter, but the guys that he was going against, they weren't very. I don't know what the right word is, but as I said already, violent hands. I think, after seeing football myself in front of my own eyes, and I have to say that it's all about violent hands when you're on the line, whether you're a defender or you're on the offensive line. Violent hands is key, and the thing is, it's going to be a whole different ball game once you come in the NFL. So that's my only worry, is I hope he can kind of learn those things, but I hope every single one of these guys. I mean, I could say that for every single guy.
Oh, of
It's going to
course,
be a
man.
big adjustment. It's going to be a
Yeah,
big
for
adjustment for
sure.
sure.
For sure. Yeah, I mean it's so easy to kind of dream on a lot of these draft prospects, and unfortunately, most of them don't work out. But yeah, I'm a big Jackson with his versatility is huge, especially with the Bucs. Having their offensive line set. It's nice to have a guy that you can kind of think about. Well, is he going to maybe replace Bredesen, or is he going to maybe replace Mock? Like, it's kind of nice to have a guy that can kind of move around the chessboard, so to speak. So yeah, Jackson, he played for the national champions, right? That's kind of a big deal.
Hmm.
And I love how you described the running back. You knew exactly where he was going based on where Jackson was, and that could be a product of the highlight reel that you're watching. But at the same time, like, that's really cool to see, and that's a really interesting way to put it. That's really dope. Makes me feel kind of silly about my analysis of this next guy, but Tyler Booker out of Alabama is my guy for round 1/round 2. He's definitely a round 2 guy. I think we're in step that there aren't really any round 1 guys that are worth attention, that are, there just aren't any interior offensive linemen that are going to go in round 1. But Booker's really good. I don't know how much sense he would make now, because he would have to be a round 2 guy. Like, I don't think he lasts past the Bucks pick very long in that second round, if he even gets there, frankly. He's just really good, best guard available in my mind. Would make He would make for probably the best backup offensive lineman in football, if we're being honest. He would be really, really stinking good. So I don't know how much that would be worth a second round pick. But if the Bucks are really looking for just some insurance, some long-term viability on their interior, he would be kind of interesting. He's amazing in the run game, has 34-inch arms for a guy his size. That's remarkable. And he's pretty decent in the pass too. Just some footwork issues, but like you said, everyone has their flaws. I think the biggest problem for him, though, is just blocking at the second level. You see a lot of it in his tape. It's really dominant in the line of scrimmage, and then as the run progresses and he moves towards blocking linebackers, he can really struggle in that area. So yeah, Tyler Booker, really, really talented guy. Would be very surprised if he ended up with the Bucks, but hey, crazier things have happened. We'll move to our round 3/round 4 guys. I'll start us off with Dylan Fairchild out of Georgia. He's definitely a round 4 person. Um, he's another guy that, I mean, all these guys are going to be backups, unfortunately, with the Bucks. Well, not unfortunately for the Bucks, but unfortunately for these guys, there's just not really a path to playing time, barring any injury, because their offensive line is just really good. It's well set. So Fairchild, kind of a raw talent, sort of, not a whole lot of experience, even as a 4-year guy, because Georgia, they just pump out those big boys. So he was always all SEC though last year, state champ wrestler in high school. Just all the pedigree that you want for an offensive lineman, especially on the interior. But he could be a long-term answer for one of the guard spots, more of a project type of player. But that's perfect for round 4. A depth piece / project guy, maybe a potential future starter, but no pressure for him to step right in and make that NFL adjustment that, like you said, is so tough for everyone that comes out of college. But yeah, so Dylan Fairchild, he's my round 3 or round 4 guy. How about you, my man? Who you got, Mr. Tariq?
I like it, Carter. My guy is Chase Lunt from UConn.
Oh, okay.
Standing at 6'8", about
Oh my.
305 pounds. This guy, he's a big dog, but I'll tell you this, he's got some size to him for his speed. I mean, he's got some speed for the size he
I
is.
got you.
Now, yeah, I was watching his tape, and this one actually kind of excites me because, in my opinion, I don't think we're actually going to be reaching for an offensive lineman in the earlier rounds.
Of
I see
course,
this
yeah,
guy in the
I'm with
later,
you
like probably like another 4th rounder.
for sure.
Excellent ability to move across the field, especially for his size, whether that means pulling or, climbing to the second level. I saw it all, and just talk about being like an athlete, just, yeah, he has a bunch of stuff to clean up, of course, but same thing with, with Jackson. It's the same thing with, knowing the assignment. He perfected every single assignment, whether that meant, blocking for just his quarterback or blocking for the running back. And it was I'll have you know, actually, I forgot where I saw it, but UConn's offensive line was actually up there in the rankings for sacks allowed. They really didn't let any sacks allowed. So, I mean, he is definitely a contributing factor on that. Now, here's what I like about him compared to what I saw with, Donovan Jackson, which was I did see some guys, throw those violent hands out there, but he was able to stop it, for the most part. Uh, Same thing, Carter, with these weaknesses is, can he handle, these top tier defensive ends? Because, this is no longer college. The D ends you're going against now are the best of the best in the nation. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's like, are you able to stop that? Um, in my opinion, the way I see it right now, looking at our roster, I think this guy, and I'm not sure if I had mentioned it already, I apologize, but he is a right tackle.
Mhm.
So I'm looking at right tackle, and I'm looking at you, Silas Danzy. I think this guy's going to take your spot if we were to get him.
Wow.
I
Okay.
mean, look, let's be honest. Look, we got Luka Decky. Luka Decky goes down. I don't know anything about Silas Danzy. I don't think we've ever seen anything about him. And I don't want to make this kind of a Silas Danzy kind of crap, crap on him either. But it's time we kind of focus on these depth pieces, Carter, because, sure, any of these guys, will they get a starting role immediately? No. But hey, look, championship teams have solid depth. And if we were to get him, I would be really excited. And I guess some reports are like, listen, this guy's 6'8", 305, which kind of doesn't really, I guess the right word is, he's not as chunky as you'd like him to be. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
that's a
saying?
big concern for me. Yeah.
So, yeah, he has, I guess, big legs. Of course, he's 6'8", 305, but, he's not a bowling ball is what I'm guessing, what I'm saying.
Right.
So I guess that's
Yeah,
a weakness, but, those things you can work on. You know what I'm
for
saying?
sure. Yeah.
Those things. I mean, look, school's out. There's no more school anymore for him at UConn. He's a professional. This is his job, so it's time to just start hitting the gym and all that,
Yeah,
and eat
absolutely.
more, whatever.
Put
You
him on that
work
professional
with
weight
your
room
with your strength and conditioning coaches.
for sure.
That stuff should be easy for him.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, right tackle is where he's at now, but I think it would be really fascinating with Mekhi Becton having the success that he did with the Eagles this past year, because typically you hear interior offensive linemen, you say, oh well, they can't be tall, they can't be bigger dudes, and I think Mekhi Becton, obviously there are exceptions to that rule, and Mekhi Becton was one of them. So maybe Chase Lunt, he comes in, maybe he hits the weight room, maybe he gets some bulk, because like you said, 305, that's a bit thin,
Yeah,
especially if he wants to try to become more of a versatile piece, which I think would be necessary for him, especially if he wants to make it just into the NFL ranks at first, because, if you're playing as a backup and you can only play tackle, like, sure, that's fine, but, you just increase your value by being able to shift around a little bit. So I would love to see him, like you said, hit the weight room, get into an NFL strength and conditioning program, really bulk up. That would be great because, yeah, like you said, 6'8", and then he can play on it. That would be really fun. I think that he would be a really, really great guy to target for sure with the Bucs because, like you said, he's a right tackle and he's so athletic. Like you mentioned, it's really insane that a guy that size can move as well as he does. So yeah, I'm with you on Chase Long. I like him a lot. And our day three guys, we'll get to them. And Mr. Treek, you kick us off. Who's your day three guy for offensive line?
hey, I want to give you a shout out as well for starting up with your player. I think I'm gonna go with the center as well, Carter,
Ooh, okay.
and I think it's again time to think about who's our backup for Graham Barton. So
Yeah.
I got Jonah Monheim from the University of Southern California. He is also a versatile offensive lineman, but reports do have him probably ending up at center wherever he does go.
Mhm.
Good with the pass protection. To be honest, my thing was kind of with the run game, but you know, might as well get a young dog to back up Graham Barton. I think he is also solid with the second blocks, like the other guys we've mentioned. Stays low for the most part. When he gets beat, can't really recover. Like the better offensive lineman out there, but um, you know Yeah, look, size and stature, aren't dream-like, but I think he'd be really good on the inside, whether that means center or at guard, and
Mhm.
especially for a day three guy, um, this could be a project that you work on. So I think he can just be a quality depth piece. He's no, definitely not going to be anywhere in the early or mid round. This is a super late rounder,
For
undrafted
sure.
free agent kind of guy.
Yeah.
I guess you could call him a hidden gem, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, people do mention his kind of his arm length. That could be an issue as well. So
Gotcha.
we'll see what happens with him. But for a
Yeah.
day three guy, I think he'll be fine.
For sure. And you get into the day three guys, a lot of these guys are going to have maybe more negative than positive. It's just the
Yeah,
nature of it. If they were flawless prospects, if they were coming through the college football pipeline as the best players at their position, they wouldn't be day three guys. Unfortunately, that's just the nature of it. So yeah, I'm high on Jonah as well. I think that he'll be an interesting guy. Maybe attaches to a practice squad or something like that. That's how it is with a lot of these day three guys. Maybe they don't make the roster, but they can hang on to a practice squad. So he'd be a really interesting guy to monitor, especially for the Bucs, because like you said, Graham Barton, he's a great center and he's their starter, but Robert Hainsey is no longer there. He's in Jacksonville. He followed Liam Cohen, so the Bucs do need a guy to back up Barton at center, and so I went with Seth McLaughlin. Out of Ohio State, another OSU guy. He's very comfortably round 7. And I'd be fine with him, competing for a backup center role. Maybe I know that they've mentioned Elijah Klein, who was a draft pick last year, maybe shifting around, moving to center a little bit, trying to back up Barton next season, as well as just being a versatile interior offensive lineman kind of guy. And Seth could be mostly a center. I think a big strength for Seth would be that he's just sort of a second quarterback out there, really great in blitz recognition. He can kind of be another field general, but for the offensive line, just take some stuff off the quarterback's plate in that regard. So I think that's his biggest strength, is just sort of being able to read defenses, call out assignments, stuff like that. He has all the academic background to kind of support that. Really, really a lot of just really strong things when you read about his academic career at OSU. But unfortunately, his strength is a bit of a concern, which is kind of a big deal for an interior offensive lineman. And then, he's not the best blocker. But again, like you said, these are day three guys. These are just going to be flawed football players, unfortunately, at this point. But yeah, you take some upside, and this would be a great practice squad guy because he would be able to help with that kind of stuff. I think he'd be super helpful for the quarterbacks, for the offenses, and just helping other young offensive linemen along. So I think Seth McLaughlin would be a really interesting choice. So we're nearing the end of our episode. We got through all of our interior offensive line prospects, but I wanted to give a shout out to the Highlanders, Mr. Tariq. The floor is yours. This is our overtime segment, if you will. Give us an update on you're working with the semi-professional football team, the Highlanders. So give us something on that. How's that going?
Yes, sir. Yeah, this is a brand new team out of Dunedin, Florida. They're part of
Mhm.
the Elite American Football League in the AA division, and we had our second game against the St. Petersburg Chargers here in Dunedin, Florida, at Freedom Field, and
Mhm.
it's been great so far. We defeated the defending champs in Week 1, the North Florida Warriors,
Very nice.
by I think, oh man, I'm forgetting the score from the top of my head, but about 10, 15 points, and then we ran over the St. Petersburg Chargers 48-12. That was a
Oh,
very comfortable win.
oh my.
So I mean, yeah, we got some good guys out here. We got a game tomorrow against the Florida Warhawks in Winter Park, but it's been great so far. And I mean, I'll tell you this, I love the atmosphere and being part of this organization. I'm able to kind of get that up close action with you know players who have played in college, guys who have just started playing football a couple of years ago, and they've picked it up so well that they're a starter. Hell, we got people like Dominique Rogers Cromartie on
I
our
was about
team,
to
if
ask
that
about
name rings
him.
a bell.
Yeah.
Fans, if you're listening, yeah, you ever seen Dominique Rogers Cromartie? If you want to see him again, stop on by Freedom
Heck yeah.
Field, March 29th, Dunedin, Florida. And so, yeah, it should be a really fun season. I mean, we got a real good team. We are number one right now in the rankings. We got a lot of haters in the league, just
Never.
because we're a brand new team, and I think this is an absolute organization effort from the coaches to the players, but also our general manager, who did a lot of the recruiting. So, I mean, that's all I'll say. I hope maybe you can make it out one day to the games.
Oh man,
And
that'd be awesome. That'd
yeah,
be a blast.
hell yeah, man! I'll slide
Absolutely.
you a season pass.
Oh, hell yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I think I've just been so impressed and excited by the work that y'all have been doing. It's been really fun to follow sort of from afar. But yeah, I'll definitely have to make it out to a game. That'd be a blast. Getting to see Mr. Tariq in action. Do they call you Coach Tariq, or are you the what are the play? How do the player? Do they just call you Moose like everyone else? How's
They
your
call me
relationship with
Moose.
the players?
Some
Yeah.
some of them call me Coach, and
Oh, okay.
I kind of just let it happen, even though
Oh,
I'm
for
really not a
sure.
coach. Or sometimes I'll just repeat what a coach says to act like I'm a coach or something. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So yeah, but
Oh, man.
some of the new guys who don't know that I've never played football, they think I am a coach. So I let it, let it happen. But
Yeah, why not? Let it fly.
no,
Yeah,
I'm more on
let it
the
happen.
administrator. But no, man, I love every aspect of it, man. Just being able to kind of see these things up close, working with our quarterbacks, wide receivers, offensive line, defensive line. That's actually my favorite part, actually, is, working with the linemen.
Oh, very cool. I love
So,
it.
yeah.
All right. Well, we'll definitely. I'm going to keep asking about it just because, man, this seems like a blast. Like that's off-season football. I mean, what can be better than that? So yeah, we'll definitely we'll be watching with great interest. And RBLR listeners, if you're listening, definitely check it out. If you're in the Dunedin area and trying to catch a football game, sounds like a great time. But thank y'all for listening. We really appreciate y'all for.
Oh,
Oh,
we
hold
do
on.
have, oh, we got a surprise question since we're talking linemen.
Okay.
I'll go ahead
Who's
and
the
let you start
least?
off with this.
All right, who's the least skilled, seconded, strong backup lineman in your opinion?
Probably, I think, I guess what they're asking is probably, who's the least, skilled backup lineman that,
Mhm.
if we had to replace, you
Sure. Yeah, I
know,
mean, I don't know. I really like Elijah Klein. I think he's going to be really good.
yeah,
As a backup, not necessarily as a starter. So definitely take him out of the running for this conversation. Um, I mean, Charlie Hick they brought on mostly for what the heck, let's sign Charlie, as Mr. Tariq said in the chat. Or we lost school, what the heck, let's sign Charlie. I think that's the full quote from Musab Tariq. I don't want to misquote you there, Musab. But yeah, Charlie Heck's not exactly a great backup, but they signed him mostly for special teams. So I think we'll set him aside as well. I do think that the guy you mentioned when you're talking about Chase Lund, Silas Danzy, was that his name,
yeah,
right?
that's my,
Uh,
that would be my answer.
Yeah, that'd probably be my answer too. He's probably the most replaceable player on the Bucs offensive
Yeah.
line as a backup. So he's not gonna wow you or anything. He might be more of a practice squad guy as they move forward. So if they do decide to replace anyone as a backup, or if they just want to supplement their backup roles, because they don't really have all of them filled out. You know what I mean? Like they don't have the roster completely shelled out in that regard. So they might not even really have to replace anyone. It might more just be like, oh, let's just add another backup because the more the merrier. The more the merrier. But we really
Probably,
appreciate that, Chris.
yeah.
Sorry, go
Probably
ahead.
say just more kind of competition, especially,
Sure, absolutely. Yeah,
during
so it might
during
not
the
even
camps.
necessarily yeah, it might not even necessarily be about replacing. But that's a good question because you got to think about, if you're going to give a roster spot to one of these draft picks, you got to not give one to someone else. So that's a very
Hmm.
important and very interesting question. So we really appreciate that, Kristen. So yeah, but as always, thank you all for tuning in and thank you for the question. We really appreciate that. Always fire them up. We'll show them on screen and we'll try to answer them as best we can. But like and subscribe if you want to keep hearing from us. We'd really appreciate it. You can also give us a follow at RBLR Bucs or at RBLR Sports. We've got great content coming out across our channel as always. And we'll be back at you next week with some more draft coverage. And we'll get a little bit, maybe dig a little bit deeper into these free agent signings individually because it's a long off season. We've got some stuff to talk about. But until then, thank you to my co-host, Mr. Musab Tariq. And as always,
Yes, sir.
go
Go
Bucs.
Bucks.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, Please remember to like and subscribe.